Hello and welcome. Hopefully you can hear me. Thank you for being here. Lots of fun stuff to talk about today, and let me let me just check out and make sure that everything is actually working here, because that's usually a good thing to do. Oh, I got my delay, so I've got 10 seconds. We'll just say hello to Acapella, hello to Nacer, hello to Cargo Bike Life. What's up? Okay, good. Sound is working. That's what we wanted. Okay. What's up to Daniel? What is up to Parker? And then what's up with Daniel? I like my royalty-free music that has a song called Poetic Wax, so I can wax poetic on this live stream. Today I'm going to do a couple things. The main thing I want to do is actually talk about cameras, which is something I haven't done in quite a while. But I also have some tech things that I want to kind of change and play with. So we're going to dive into that really quick. First thing that I want to try to do, which I don't know if that's actually I don't think it's possible anymore. I was going to try to live stream also to Instagram, but I didn't do that before the stream started because it got really confusing, and now I can't do it because there's a way to like dual stream to YouTube and Instagram, which is very cool. But I guess because it's weird though, because I'm using Ecamm, which I love, and I've never done the dual streaming thing. And when you set it up to Instagram, it's a little weird, but I couldn't find a way. It makes it look like I'm streaming to Instagram, but then I have to go into Instagram and actually like approve the live stream for it to go. But then I couldn't find a way to start streaming on Ecamm. It looked like I was also live on Ecamm, and now I don't have a way to add a stream source. So womp womp. Oh well. I guess we'll only be on YouTube today. That's okay, because we'll be full widescreen then, which is perfect for the subject we're talking about. What's up, Bicky? We got Tyler, Rena from the UK. We got Muhammad, Leo. Man, it must be very, very early over there. We have Dan. I'm so happy to see you here, Dan. Mr. Robbie from Switzerland. We also got Jeremy. Maybe the Ecamm instructor here can help me figure out my problem. No, I don't use Restream. I use Ecamm, which now kind of has like Restream built into it. But yeah, this was just, I did like a test thing. It makes me panic because it's sort of weird. You load in your Instagram stream key, you go live, and then what you need to do is you go to Instagram on desktop and your stream will pop up, and then you hit go live on Instagram. And that's all cool. But on the Ecamm side of things, it looks like you're live because it's sending out a signal to Instagram, which is fine. But once I did that, there was no way to go live on YouTube then. So it was like, I don't know. I know it's possible because like my wife Heather has done it and it worked great for her. I don't know. Sometimes I am like a bit of a noob when it comes to tech. I'm also a noob when it comes to time zones because it's not early. It is 6 p.m. where Leo is. That's cool. Oh, hey, Home Sweet Myrtle, what's up? First time. Yeah, that means streams are sort of random. I do them as often as I can lately, but there's no specific schedule. So I appreciate everyone just showing up when I just go like, hey, I'm streaming right now. And then people randomly show up. That is cool. Saskatchewan, what's up? In the sketch. Here we go. Perfect. Cam, thank you for keeping me slightly on topic. Before we dive into the topic I wanted to talk about today, I did want to talk about this microphone, which is the Shure MV7. I filmed the main part of my review for it, which I'm editing right now, so I need to do all the B-roll and stuff. Also, this is a microphone that I actually wasn't interested in when it was first announced because I've had the original MV7 since it came out in 2020, and this is an upgrade to that, but I already have this, so cool. But the more I heard people using this microphone, the more interested I became in it. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Learning about the features was pretty cool, and then I got a little bit. The MV7 filled me with a little bit of envy because it seemed like it could do some pretty cool things. So today I don't have any mixers or anything. I'm just using USB, and that's it. That's what we got. So I did want to show everybody, if I can do this the right way. I think it would be this. Yeah. All right, cool. Is that not working? What's that motive mix? No, you're working. Okay, that was weird. Oh, don't move it. I swear I know how to do things. I actually did want to show, I need my headphones for this. So I can monitor my audio right now through my headphones, which I'm doing right now. And this is the Motive Mix app. So this is where, and I'll talk about this all in my review, so I'm going to try not to repeat myself. That should hopefully be out next week. if you have the original MV7, you probably don't need the MV7 Plus. You just don't. There's not a lot of pluses to the Plus if you already have this one, unless you use it solely as a USB microphone. Then there could be, that's where all the upgrades are, really. There's a little bit of design stuff. There's these cool LED lights that happen here, and that's neat and stuff. But here's kind of what I wanted to show, which is very cool. So I have the MV7 right here. I'm pretty sure, yeah, you should be able to see that just fine. If I click on the device settings, this is a much more robust menu than you would get with the original MV7. The original MV7, you have like 3 things to change. You can do tone, you can do, maybe there's like a filter, I think, and you can do distance, like how close you are to the microphone. This has some pretty awesome stuff, so I'm going to turn all these off, actually. I have been using, whoa, I kind of moved it there. I've been using auto level with this microphone pretty much since I got it, anytime I'm using it on USB, and it works really well. If I turn off auto level, now I have gain control, so I can turn it down and make it really quiet, or I could turn it up and make it really loud, but that's uncomfortable. But what if, let's turn on the denoiser. Wow. Oh, that sounds weird because there's so much noise. See how much background noise there is? Because I have my gain maxed out. I'm talking very quietly and it's still picking me up. But the denoiser, this is pretty much the worst case scenario for a denoiser, and it's actually not terrible. If I don't max out my stuff there and I go right here, the denoiser sounds significantly better. You do get a compressor if you're not using auto gain, but if you're using auto level, I guess, if you're using that, I think it works really, really well. And then the way I described it in my review is it's like the RAM of your brain. It takes off some of the processing power and you don't have to worry about it because your levels are going to be good, which is cool. You can adjust the monitor here, and then you've got tone, which I like. On the original MV7, you can do natural, dark, or bright, but that's it. So this is natural. This is what dark would be like. It's a little bigger and boomier. And this is bright. It's a little more compressed. Kind of honestly sounds more like a pod mic. What's cool about the MV7 Plus is then you can also go in between those. So if you want it to just be a little bit bright or a little bit dark, like my voice has somewhat of a nasal quality to it, so I don't want to go too bright because it's going to emphasize that a lot and all those sibilants. And I'm an only child. I don't have any sibilants. So I want to go down here. I don't want to go super dark because I don't want the big boomy voice, but a little bit dark. You know, I'm a little edgy, a little bit dark over there. And then the denoiser is great because I don't really have background noise in my current, I have the door shut. There's maybe a little AC or something. But the denoiser is awesome because it doesn't seem super distracting. Like it's not a noise gate that you can hear opening and closing every time I talk. Stop talking, talk. It sounds quite natural. So for the most part, I don't really see a reason not to leave that on. And then a very cool thing, this is literally the thing that made me more interested in the MV7 Plus than anything, is the popper stopper, because my biggest complaint with the original MV7 was the propensity for plosives, as you can kind of hear. They did fix it a little bit on this one, but Peter Piper pitched a podcast. You hear those pa sounds. If I turn on the popper stopper, Peter Piper pitched a podcast. Somehow digitally, I guess instead of changing the design of the microphone too much, digitally they have decided, they have found ways to deal with that. So it's kind of cool. You can play with that. You can also play with the high pass filter, and then you can also change the behavior of the LED bar strip thing on the microphone itself, which I really like. I have mine set to be blue, like purple and green, which is super fun. So anyway, that's that there. So that's the microphone I'm using right now. I am honestly incredibly impressed with this microphone so far. So again, not to just repeat everything in the review. One thing that they did change, I don't know, well, here, I can take this off. So if I take the windscreen off of this and I take the original windscreen, you can see they did make the windscreen of the new one taller. Oh, check this out, actually. I have an overhead camera today. So here's the MV7 Plus, and here is the MV7. You can see they are quite different in size. And the cool thing about that, I think the reason they did that is, well, it's sort of like the SM7B. So on the SM7B, if you take the windscreen off, it has this big metal grate. It has like a built-in windscreen, which works really great. And so it keeps, this already by itself works as a windscreen. The capsule's right here. And then you're putting another windscreen on top of it. And basically, you'll never have any problems with plosives on this mic at all, ever, which is very, very cool. On the MV7 and the MV7 Plus, you don't really have that type of capsule. It looks very, very different. Almost looks like an SM58 kind of microphone here. And That's fine, except that this just doesn't reject plosives very well. And so if you take a tiny little windscreen, especially kind of a thin, cheesy one like the one that comes with it, and you pop it over here, it doesn't really do anything to reject or protect from plosives. What's really nice is the MV7 Plus comes with a longer one, so it's almost like the SM7B, because what I've been doing is just putting SM7B windscreens on the MV7, and this actually works fine. But what's really cool is they sort of did their own middle ground there, did a longer one that kind of helps keep things away from the capsule and reduces plosives on its own. And I'm glad they did that, because I think one of the reasons they kept this so short and stubby was so that the yoke, which this is very satisfying. Like if I want to like it's a perfect fit, but how often do you need the microphone in this configuration? You pretty much never need your microphone in this configuration. So I'm glad that they sort of sacrificed that for a better windscreen and better plosive rejection, because that is something that you need more often. So that has been working great, and that's what you've been hearing me on right now. This microphone comes in white and black, just like the original did. I got the white one because I already had the black one before, so it's not a sponsored thing, by the way. It's just ordered on Amazon. Amazon, sponsored by affiliate links, I suppose. So that's the microphone I'm using today, and it's pretty sweet. Let's see here. That was Cam who asked about that. Okay, we're evening time for a lot of people. We've got Philippines tuning in with JP. What's up? Tech Z, Alex Crawford looking to pick up a camera next month to enhance what I'm doing with the drone. Just can't wait to see your camera pic. Okay. Yes, so we're going to talk mainly about cameras today as we kind of get through microphones. Tide, what's up? It's going great. I love my Rodecaster. I use it all the time, but I wanted to showcase the USB functionality because it's cool. You don't need anything else, right? Like just the USB cable. It comes with one, and then you're all set. And that's pretty sweet. And the software is free. Does the SM7B's windscreen, the big one, help in any way? I think I don't know if that model number is the regular windscreen. Yes, it does help. Makes a huge difference. This is an aftermarket one from Reporter Store. The big poofy one that comes with the SM7B doesn't fit as well on the MV7. It fits. It's just not quite as well. And what's also very cool is he might pop in the stream. Is my buddy Doc Rock, who has his very own YouTube channel. He's also works with Ecamm Live, so he's involved in everything. He was the one years ago who originally told me about Reporter Store, where you can get custom color windscreens. The downside to Reporter Store, as much as I love them, in the US, they're based in Europe, and so shipping and time and stuff, it can get a little pricey to get windscreens. And so what Doc has been doing, spent like the last year, literally like creating molds, working with manufacturers to make his own custom colored windscreens out of like legit acoustic foam. So he calls them Doc Pops. I put a link in the description if you want to check them out, because you can pre-order them, because he kind of needs a certain number of pre-orders. This is not a sales pitch, but he needs a certain number of pre-orders before he can it's just a guy making stuff. So in order for them to actually go into manufacturing beyond these prototypes. But he did some for the MV7, MV7 Plus. I really like the green one. And they just fit on there. And then Peter Piper pitched, let me turn off the popper stopper, because I probably then, Peter Piper pitched a podcast. These are definitely thicker and higher quality. So actually, I don't need to have the pop stopper on there. Ooh, and I really like the bright green. So anyway, that has been Windscreen Corner. Oh, also, this is kind of silly, but I did find out Rode has their WS14, like these new, these pod mic windscreens, which do not fit on the MV7. But if you're a crazy person like I am, you can stuff the MV7's windscreen inside and then pop this on here, and it is going to really muffle the sound. It's going to make it sound very dark, but you're going to have Peter Piper pitched a podcast. No plosives can possibly penetrate this pop filter. And it only looks kind of crazy, but I sort of... Oh, mute. See, that's you want to know my actual complaint of the MV7 Plus is how easy it is to accidentally hit the mute thing, like I just did. I was reaching. There we go. Has a very nice smooth mute. It's not like there's not a pop. It's I'm talking and then I'm not talking, but every time I grab the mic, I accidentally hit mute. Not a great situation. Okay. I can take off my headphones there and get this out of there. So that has been the audio corner of today's thing. We're actually not going to spend too much time on audio. I'm going to go through what I want to talk about, and then we can do general Q&A if there's still time, and then we can talk about whatever, which is fun. So that's what we're going to be doing right now. Anthony, you're in Impact? That's awesome. What I miss about teaching is being in the classroom and teaching stuff and doing the cool projects and doing everything. If you don't know, I was a high school teacher for 11 years, high school digital media teacher for 9 years, and that's cool. I don't miss everything else. It felt like it felt like teaching was such a small part of my job, and I was like, it was all like the politics and everything else kind of took over, and I didn't get to felt like I was hardly spending any time actually just teaching and working on projects. There's like so many distractions. Doc is has a very good eye when it comes to colors, and this is like the exact same color there. Much like my wife Heather, his color is purple. So there you go. You can go to, I put the link in the description. I think it's docmerch.com, and you can pre-order. And I sound like I get no kickbacks from this. He's just a friend of mine. He makes cool stuff, and it's kind of neat to see just one person individually like try to tackle the idea of creating products. Let me get these off the desk here, because I'm gonna be desperate for more desk space. And yeah, I'm a bright color person, which some people love and some people hate. What's up, Brad? I fell in love with the color of the Miami blue P base back there. Are you still happy with it? Yes, I love my P base, and I kind of damaged it a while ago. It's fine now, but now it's more of a fun story and it adds character to it. But here's what happened. This was one of the things that prompted me to redo my studio. Prior to redoing my studio, I had very little space. Things are very cramped. I was filming B-roll for something, the Elgato prompter maybe, and I had this Nanlite Pablo tube kind of set up back here, adding in like a rim light or something, and my base was hanging on the wall, and I knocked the light over, and it landed right on the neck of the base. So what that ended up doing, luckily it didn't hit the finish, it didn't chip the finish, but it chipped right into the base here, which I can do this. This is not what I was intending to show today. You probably can't see it right here. Let's get this camera to focus maybe. There we go. There's sort of this thing here. It really took a chunk out of the neck, and I had to take it to a really good repair person who you can still see it, which I don't really mind because now it just sort of adds character. It's like this cool thing. I was working on, being self-employed, making a video, and a light fell down. Luckily, he fixed it where you can't feel it and the finish matches the neck perfectly. So that was an expensive mistake to get fixed. And I was very sad. It's right on the 8th fret, so it's almost like another fret marker now on the 8th fret. And I see it every time I play, but it's like, it bummed me out when it was really deep in the guitar neck. And the danger with that too is then the oils from your hands get in there and they can mess up the wood. So anyway, that was kind of the last straw where I was like, I think I need to rearrange my setup to give me more space. But yeah, it gives it character. I know it's all dinged up. I was watching a video from Rancid, the band. Their bass player, Matt Freeman, has his own YouTube channel called it's Matt Freeman's Bass Bunker. And it's great. He shows you like how to play songs and stuff. But he was also going over, he just shows you like, here's my P bass from, Operation Ivy in the 80s. And it's like, it's literally just got wood screws, drilled into it and stuff. So I know I can be a bit of a perfectionist, but I felt so dumb for like knocking over a light onto my very expensive, very nice P bass. Oh, look. Doc is texting me. He said the site is live, docmerch.com or docpops, POPPS.com if you want to order those. So he's watching. Anyway, it gives a character, still sounds amazing, plays amazing, and the person who did the repairs also he really went in and he added a little shim to the neck to make the action absolutely perfect. He kind of he just sort of tuned up the whole thing in a really nice way. Oh, am I glitchy again? This happened last time. and I knew, oh, hello, what's up? This is my built-in camera. Um, Now we will go back to here. That happened last time I was streaming, and I don't know why. It's like the cam link gets too hot and starts. Oh, that's weird. Anyway, hey, you're watching on a new monitor. That's awesome. Let's see here. If you have a question, we're going to do a general Q&A kind of towards the end. So if you want to ask something that's not related to the main topic of today, that's totally fine. We'll just get to those at the end. We'll say conferences for video creators. Crap. NAB. I was like, what was the one I went to? That's a great one. I love NAB. VidCon's a really fun one. VidCon is geared more towards fans these days rather than the creator side of things. There's also Vid Summit, which I've never been to. So, but I know that's more if you want to be like the creator side of things. Yeah. Brad, you had the same the same thing with your Strat. I mean, there's like I have like this Telecaster is my oldest. Actually, it's my second oldest guitar, but I got this in August of 2002, so it's 22 years old next month, and it doesn't really have any damage because I am kind of obsessive with keeping things nice. It does have a spot. I don't know if you could see. You probably can't even show up, but it does have a spot on the somewhere around here from a giant watch I used to wear when I was in high school. And then the thing about this though is it does have where you can see this spot right here on the neck right there. That is where the finish has worn through just from playing a lot. And then because it didn't get repaired, kind of the oils in my hands made it like dark and stuff over the years. That's cool. I love like character through use, like if a guitar has like a belt buckle rash on the back because it's been played in a million gigs or whatever, that's cool. I don't like damage through neglect, I guess. And I was worried that my thing was damaged through neglect. Backpack, I've been using the Tenba Fulton 14L as like my main one. And then if I need a bigger one, I have the Manfrotto ProLite backloader. I have videos about all of them. Oh, yes. Let's see here. AJ, what's up? Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. We got Studio 1209. Watch all reviews on the Rodecaster Duo, Pod Mic, Wireless Me. Nice. And colors. I'm glad you appreciate the colors. Okay, last thing before we dive into today's topic. Yes, Marine X says Podcastage and Buck on stage, one night only. I think it's one afternoon only. But yes, potentially the two most reclusive folks in the YouTube audio video niche in public at the same time. Bandrew from Podcastage and I were both invited to be part of a podcast. I guess it's just a podcast, but it's like, sort of like a panel discussion at B&H Photo in New York City on July 21st. And there's going to be a small audience there, which it sounds very, very fun. I have a link. I didn't have the link ready right now, so I could share that. I could probably find the link and then share that with you. I should do that. I should be a professional boy and do that. But that's going to be really, really fun. And it was funny because I got invited and I wasn't 100% sure, like, if I should go, if I should not go, what to do, all that stuff. And then I messaged Bandrew, or he messaged me, and he was like, hey, did you get this invite? And once we each realized that the other was going to be there, then we were like, yeah, we want to go. So half the reason we're going is so we can just meet in person. And I'm going to put that link. So I put a link in the chat right now if you want to kind of get info about that, or even go. If you're in the New York area on that day, you could go, and that'd be awesome too. Oh my God. Okay. I know I said that was going to be the last one, but Luke did a super chat, so this is going to be the last one because it's also ridiculous. Since we're the same age, you're also 21 years old. What was your first celebrity crush? The pink Power Ranger? My celebrity crush. I think I don't know if this counts as a celebrity crush, but when I was in like preschool, I guess I had a crush on Gadget from the Rescue Rangers. And then I think it was more elementary school when Secret World of Alex Mack came out. I think everyone in my class had a crush on Alex Mack. Okay. Speaking of crushes, I want to crush it now by staying on topic. So I'm going to dive into a little bit of thing about cameras here, which I would love if you have questions, comments, things to chip in, please do If you have other questions about non-camera related things, totally cool too. Just put a Q colon in front of it and we'll get to it at the end. But something that happened was on June 29th was my YouTube channel's 7th birthday. Yay. But I didn't actually upload my first video until July of 2017. So I started the channel, I bought my Artlist subscription, I did all that, and then I didn't know what video to make. So actually, I think I have. Did I do this right? Oh my God, look at me. I was prepped. See, I'm not totally inept. I was prepped. If you go to my oldest video, it's this one here. Yeah. What is the exact date? July 13th, 2017 was my first video. And I had gotten my drone license, my first Part 107 license not long before that. Studying for that was a little bit of a nightmare. And it wasn't that bad. It was just like a little bit frustrating. And so I didn't know what to make YouTube videos about. I didn't feel comfortable like, I'm just going to vlog and like, here's me. I'm so interesting. So I figured like, oh, I could do sort of like curate resources for passing your Part 107 drone license exam. That way it's like, there's a clear topic. It's not about me. I can explain something clearly and do that. And so that was the video that I made. That was my first YouTube video, which honestly, like it took a long time to get to a decent number of views, but like that's pretty good for a very first video. Some of my other videos 7 years later are in like the double-digit views still, so they're not all that way. But this was funny. So yeah, it's kind of funny to. There's a lot less gray hair though. It is kind of funny. Like a lot of things are exactly the same. It's just the space has been. This was my office prior to YouTube, so this is like set up more as an office rather than anything else. And it was funny because I had my Canon 6D, my original, the 6D Mark I, which was just my camera at the time. So that's what I filmed this with. I had to borrow a 3-point lighting setup because I didn't own any of my own video lights. And I guess I can mute this and just pop it in here. For audio, I had the H4n. I did have my own H4n. I had that like on a tripod mounted below. I literally spent, oh my God, I spent hours setting up 3-point lighting, which like, the lighting's fine, but it's nothing special. There's nothing about this that should have taken hours to set up. And then the trickier part too was the camera, because the 6D Mark I could shoot really awesome 1080 video, but it had no autofocus and it had no flippy screen. So I had to order a monitor from B&H, a little reference monitor, so I could actually kind of see what was happening. And then focusing, I didn't know, like the camera didn't have focus peaking or anything. So I actually had my other base. I have this P base, and then I have, which is not in here, I have a very inexpensive, it's like $140 SX P base copy, which I've had for a long, long time. And that's a fun one to just like, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but I'm a little less worried if stuff happens to that one. But I would set the base where I was, and then I would use the base head as like the focus point, and then take the base out, and then I would sit there and hope that I was in focus. And I wrote like a multi-page script here. There's no B-roll either. Like there's nothing. Here's the most B-roll that happens in this is at some points I pop up like an app logo on screen, and I think I have like several screen recordings maybe that pop out throughout here. And this is as complex as the video was. It was a very basic video, but it actually does a good job. Like even to this day, I think if you kind of go through, if you want to get your drone license and was I not showing it the whole time? I'm just an ass. Okay. Sorry. This is what I was talking about. I was popping up little things. This is the B-roll right here. But to this day, if you want to get your drone license and you go through and you look at that video, I think the resources are actually still good. I think some of them could be updated a little bit, but like you could pass your Part 107 test. I don't tell you the hows and whats. I just say like, do this, watch this, do this, use this app, and then you'll be good to pass. And I think that that's true because it's very overwhelming. If you're trying to get your drone license, like there's so many resources. Some are paid, some are free, and you don't know what to do. So yeah. So anyway, that's that. Where did my comments go? They just disappeared. There we go. Let's see here. Let's see here. So anyway, The reason I want to show you that was because to share that, it was 7 years ago this month that I uploaded my very first YouTube video on this channel. I had made a YouTube video before. It was for like a friend's band. I did like a behind the scenes recording of them in like 2007. So maybe 2007 then was when I uploaded my first YouTube video. It's on a different channel. But for that one, I actually used this old camcorder, which I'll talk about. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to talk about the different cameras from video one to this live stream right now, sort of the progression, because one of the most common questions I get is, I want to start a YouTube channel. What camera do I get? What's your recommendation? Obviously, things have changed. Like, you should not get the same camera I bought in 2017, probably in 2024. But I thought it might be neat to go through the different cameras I've used and the whys behind it. And that might, I don't know, help you make a decision about cameras and that stuff. Hey, Morty's here. Morty's from B&H. Morty's the one who helped organize the panel with Bandrew and I. So thank you, Morty. It's nice to see you here. I would be mortified if I didn't thank you for that. All right. So we're going to go way back in time first, and we're going to go to the magical year of 1989. This is not the exact one, but it is the exact model. My grandparents, when I was a kid, they bought this Sony Handycam. It is the F35, and it's an 8mm camcorder. And every once in a while, if my family needed to do anything, my parents would borrow this camcorder to film stuff. So this is the first camera I ever used in my life. So I was like 4 years old. I would get to... Why am I in preview mode? What are we doing, Ecamm? Back to live mode, please. What? Sorry. My Ecamm decided to do something very strange. This was the first camera I ever used, or this model was the first one I ever used. That's the thing that addicted me to cameras, because at first I thought it was really cool to watch like home movies, right? Like, you could, I don't know, film a birthday party. And then that night, when I was sad my birthday was over, I could like rewatch it and relive it. We could go, if you went on a family vacation in the summer and then it's the winter time, like, you could rewatch it and like remember everything. And I think part of the reason I have a weird memory when it comes to like specific details and dates and that kind of stuff. And I think the reason my memory was able to be like so weird and specific is because I rewatched so many like home movies as a kid, and it just sort of drilled experiences and things into my brain in a weird way. So that was like kind of magical. But what was really cool then was it was my dad who would do simple little things. Like, he would have the camera and be recording me, and then he'd stop the camera and say, hey, like, go stand over there and start recording again. And then it would be, it'd be a quick stop motion effect of like, boop, I disappear, I reappear. He would like, do things like put the camera over the balcony of a hotel and zoom in and then like pretend like he was falling or something like that, or flying back up. And I thought that was amazing. So then I would do those things. And that's when I realized it wasn't just that you could capture stuff that happened with these cameras, but you could then like create your own version of things. And that was pretty cool. So that's this camera right here. This is the first camera I ever used. And then eventually my grandparents just gave this to my parents in the early 90s. In the mid to later 90s, it then got passed down to me, and I actually owned my own camera, which was this one to start with. Ooh. Now, the quality wasn't amazing on that camera. So in October of 2000, I got this camera, which is a Sony TRV-37. So it's still an 8mm camcorder. It's not even high 8 or anything. But it is, the quality is a bit better on this one. It has cool things. It's also just more compact. But here's the magical part of this camera. You ready for this? You ready for this? Oh, yeah. Flip out LCD. So for many years, when Sony was not putting flip out screens on their cameras, I was like, yo, you guys have been doing this for decades. Put those on your mirrorless cameras. And this was, God, the amount of like terrible movies I made throughout high school and even into college with this thing. It's pretty insane. Let's see. This is like my personal camera history, not my YouTube camera history. And then in college, so the very first YouTube video I ever made, which was not for my channel, was with this camera, this little Sony Handycam. What is this? This is the DCR HC42. This is a mini DV camcorder. Got a nice little widescreen. Got 16:9 flip out screen. This camera still works perfectly. We got our, our FireWire port and all that stuff there, trying to get my focus going. Boop. Come on, buddy. Well, okay, or not. We don't need to focus. It's okay. This camera's awesome. I had saved, I was definitely broke in college, so it took a lot of time and money to like save up to be able to buy a camera. But I wanted a digital camera so I could edit on the computer. That was kind of awesome. I think I had a bootleg copy of Premiere. I mean, a very legitimate copy of Premiere is what I mean, that I edited on. And this was really fun. Oh, and iMovie. I also had iMovie, which was very, very fun too. Really, really old school iMovie. But sadly, I honestly didn't really use this camera that much because it wasn't that long after this that I got my first DSLR, which was the Canon Rebel XT. I don't have it anymore. It just took photos. But, even the crop sensor, the image quality is so much better than what you're going to get out of this. Plus the amazing lenses you could get, even if it's just a kit lens or a nifty 50, so much better. And I just got kind of addicted to that. And then in 2010, I got a Canon T2i, which was the first DSLR that shot video for me. It wasn't the first one that shot video. The first one I owned that shot video. And then I think it was in 2012, I got the 60D. And then in 2015, I got the 6D because I'd always wanted to go full frame. Once I started shooting DSLRs, I really wanted a full frame one, which is why to this day I'm still stuck on full frame because it was something I really cared a lot about. I just like the image quality and the 1-to-1, focal length ratio on lenses and things. Probably not as much of a deciding factor, honestly, for video these days as it used to be, but I'm still very much a full frame guy. So that brings us to starting a YouTube channel. Had the Canon 6D, was setting up the videos, like this one right here. And I think, what lens? This must have been a 35mm f2. Actually, yeah, that was... I'm pretty sure that was this lens right here, this Canon EF 35 f2. This is a great lens because if you didn't want to spend the money, I don't know if they make these anymore because we're into RF and this is EF, but if you didn't want to spend the money on the L series f1.4, this was like less than half the price, f2.0, and a really, really great one. I do see, I want to be a polite fellow, and I do see a super chat from Cleverson Roy, so I want to say thank you because that's unnecessary but hugely appreciated. GH5, would you recommend recording an HLG since I don't have a vlog for YouTube and Rec 709 since it's 5.7? Yeah, so the last part of that, you can record 5.7, crop in. If you're downscaling, it's always going to look good pretty much. So that's the way to do it. The specific codecs and video codecs for Panasonic, I'm not 100% familiar with, but stay tuned because as I go through my camera journey, we're going to be talking about log and Rec 709 and all that stuff. So I very much appreciate the support. It makes a world of difference. So anyway, going back to not this, but this one. Yeah, this video here. It took me days to write the script. It took me hours to set up the lights. It took me forever to get the camera in focus. I don't know if I had to refilm anything. I don't think I had to refilm anything for this. I think I did a pretty good job. But it's still, you can even kind of see it's slightly out of focus because it just turns out I am a little bit thicker than a bass head. And so when I use my bass guitar head, and I focus on that, that would be like the center plane here. But I don't know. It was very hard to get things clearly in focus. So what I decided I needed was something simpler because if it was going to take that kind of a process to make every video on YouTube, I was never going to make that many YouTube videos. And so what I ended up doing was I started looking around. This was also 2017, so this is like daily vlogging, Casey Neistat. That whole thing is huge. Casey's a huge influence as someone who made me feel like I could start a YouTube channel. I could make videos. They could be interesting, and they don't have to be perfect, which was very, very cool. And so I ended up getting this camera, which is still one of my favorites to this day, which is the Sony RX100 Mark V. I don't know if Sony makes the RX lineup anymore. And I think pretty much the first 50 videos on my channel are made with this camera. And I still kind of think this is almost peak RX lineup in some ways. They did sort of release a couple models after this. This is not a cheap camera. This was like a $900 camera. But I did buy, I think Sony had I forget, it was like a $350 camera that looked very similar to this. And I actually bought both of them and tested them side by side. because I was like, oh, if I could save like $600, I'll do that. And this camera's image quality, especially in low light and less than ideal situations, just blew the other one out of the water. It wasn't even close. And so I returned the other one, kept this one. And I'm very glad I did, because I probably wouldn't have been able to start my channel without this camera. But some cool things with this one, it doesn't have a flippy screen, but it has a flip up screen, and it kind of has a flip out screen. So this actually works pretty well. Like if you wanted to see yourself, see what you're recording, it's very small, it's very compact. It doesn't really need to worry about getting in the way. You do actually have, though, a pop-up viewfinder, which is cool because it's a it's an electronic viewfinder. Like there's a little screen in there. It's pretty cool, and then it can pop down. You have a built-in lens. It says it's an f1.8 lens. It goes to what? I forget what the focal length is on this thing. It's a good general purpose lens. Maybe it could be a little bit wider, but it's not too bad. I mean, like that's fairly wide. What's up? There I am. Hello. It's got decent autofocus. It doesn't have like the legendary Sony autofocus that would show up later, but it has good autofocus and has a flip-up screen. And that's what I needed, was like, if I have to be in front of the camera also, I can't be thinking about things like focus. I need to know it's going to be in focus. I need to be able to see what the framing is, and this camera let me do that. This camera also kept things simple because I can't change the lens. I specifically didn't want a DSLR, or I guess there were mirrorless cameras at the time, but I didn't want one because I wanted to be stuck with this lens. There's also no audio input. I can't connect a microphone to this camera. Later versions would. This one does not. And I wanted that because I just had to work with the audio in here. Sometimes if I was really trying to be fancy, I might record audio separately with my H4n or something and sync it. But that was pretty rare. And I wanted that because it would get me out of my head. And so when it came to making a video, all I could do was I had this camera, press record, that's it. It could do 4K, but it can only do 4K for bursts of 5 minutes before it starts overheating, which is listed in the features. It's not like a defect. It's just like, it's a small camera from 7 years ago. That's the 4K capability. But that's the thing that kind of like let me see, wow, okay, 4K footage looks pretty darn good, but HD footage was easier to work with. And then it also has some pretty cool like 120 FPS, 240, and go to 960 at like 360p. But I accidentally did that one day while filming. I filmed something in slow motion, and I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. And this was in like 2017. So slow motion B-roll, all the rage. But this is the camera that introduced me to like the wonders of slow motion and just getting out of my head. I have to work with available light. I have to work with the built-in audio. I have to work with the built-in lens. It becomes less about being perfect and more about just making stuff. And so that's what let me make like a ton of videos in a short time frame, was because I had this camera. And then, what was it? December of 2017. So I had my YouTube channel for 6 months. I had just hit 100 subscribers, and I had made, at that point, I think I had made, I guess, a little over 50 videos and done quite a few live streams as well. And that was when I decided, okay, I want to bring some complexity back into my setup and focus on quality, because I'm a little more comfortable in front of the camera. I'm a little more comfortable with the workflow. And that's when Canon released the 6D Mark II, which I can't show you because it's in my wife's office right now, because that's been her camera for a number of years now. So it still gets used all the time. But the 6D Mark II is a full-frame camera with a flip-out screen. That was a novel thing at the time, a full-frame camera with a flip-out screen and video autofocus. So then I could use my awesome lenses. I could be in front of the camera. I could see what the framing was, and I could also count on decent autofocus. And so the 6D Mark II, I have a whole bunch of videos about the 6D Mark II because I love that camera. Used it for so many videos for so long. It's such a good camera. And my wife's channel, if you go to youtube.com/HeatherJustCreate, or even later today, you could go to youtube.com/Heather Ramirez at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for the YouTube Huddle Up, which is her weekly live stream where you can level up your YouTube creator skills. That was impressive. She'll be using that camera later today. It still works and looks fantastic, especially if you don't need a 4K workflow. You don't have to 4K over the cache for a different camera. So that was kind of a big turning point right there, was going from, this is the camera that got me comfortable with the YouTube workflow, the RX100 Mark V, and then the 6D Mark II was then what let me bring in some more complexity and quality. And that's the same time, like, Now we're going to connect microphones. Now we're going to buy some video lights. Now we're going to do that sort of thing. So let's pause there at that inflection point in the channel and check in with the chat, because the chat is where it's at. Let's see here. Soda Thief, I like that name, helped you pick your pod mic years ago and just got the official pop filter. Thank you for doing it. I'm so glad. I'm so glad it's been helpful. That means the world to me to hear that stuff. Daniel says the best lens he owned was the Canon 100 f2.8. Yes, I have a review on that lens. It's amazing. I've never owned it, but I was able to borrow one through my old job very regularly. It's a great lens, not just for macro stuff, but for portraits, for B-roll. It's awesome. Video on settings for Audacity. I don't really have the audacity to do that because I'm not 100% familiar with Audacity. Oh, Ryukin, you have the projector camcorder. That's right. I have that one too, and I'm still needing to make a video about that. And best dad jokes on YouTube. Cool. I'm going to dive through more of the chat later, but I just want to make sure we kind of catch up a little bit. Did you edit your very first video? Yes, I have edited every video on my channel because I'm a control freak, and I also really like editing. So I don't want to get rid of editing. JP says, we miss you over here on the Canon side. I mean, Canon cameras are so good now. Yeah. David's first video was shot on a Nokia phone. Okay, let's continue the story, and then I just want to make sure I'm not being rude. I like ska music, but I don't want to be a rude boy and ignore everybody. So, Canon 6D Mark II, that's like all of 2018 into 2019. And then the thing with the 6D Mark II that I was noticing for me was, I'm trying to think of where it was. Oh, yeah. It can only record in, it's not interlaced. What's it called? I forget what it's, something to do with the codec of the 6D Mark II. I forget the word. It's escaping me right now. I don't think interlaced is the word I'm looking for. But I noticed the autofocus was sometimes not keeping up with me because it had face autofocus, but not eye autofocus. And there were things that like, it just sort of started looking a little mushy at times, especially like sometimes I had a clean shaven face and sometimes I had a scruffy face. And if my face scruff got a little like longer, it was almost like I would get like artifacts and pixels all over my face. So it made things look kind of weird and mushy. And it was just sort of a limitation of that camera, like the ability to resolve large amounts of detail clearly. And that is when, well, that was actually like many months after Canon released the EOS R. So JP, here you go. The Canon EOS R was Canon's first full-frame mirrorless camera, also with the RP, but the R was kind of like, this was almost like their prototype proof of concept for what they would do with mirrorless cameras, especially full-frame mirrorless cameras going forward. Mine's in a cage right now. And so this was arguably maybe one of the best, if not most important cameras I've ever used. They all have their place, but what this did is this gave me insanely good autofocus compared to what I had before. And even though I was mainly using it, that's not the screen I want, even though I was mainly using it at a 1080 resolution, the 1080 from the R and the 1080 from the 6D side by side, the R was significantly clearer and also had clean HDMI out, which meant you could use autofocus while streaming, which is awesome. It's what I'm doing right now. It'd be a bummer not to be able to do this. And it can't do that with the 6D Mark II because it does not have clean HDMI out. It's like my wife, she has manual focus on that camera, and that's how she does all her videos. But she's okay with that because she doesn't want any focus breathing or pulsing in the lens. So, and the camera never moves. So she has it set up. It's focused. It's always clear. She's in the same spot. Camera's in the same spot. I move around a lot more, and I moved my camera around a lot more. So I needed good autofocus. The EOS R let me do that. It also brought in 4K. The EOS R has cropped 4K because it would overheat like crazy if they did full frame 4K. But there's no other real limits. It won't overheat in cropped 4K. And that was pretty fun because that let me kind of dip my toes here and there into a 4K workflow, even though it cropped in a lot. And as computers got better, it was like, okay, I have a computer that can kind of handle this sometimes a little bit. And then I was getting more and more interested in 4K. It was becoming, we're talking about like 2019, 2020 at this point. I ended up buying a second EOS R, so I had two of the same camera, and I really love them. I really love I still, to this day, really love Canon's RF lenses. They're great. This was also my camera I used when I taught online for the whole, part of the pandemic where we were teaching online. This is the camera that filmed our wedding because it was a pandemic wedding and we could only like film it and live stream it. So this camera is very important to me. And I still use it a lot, actually. I just made a video about mic'd up sports, like hockey things, and I use this pretty much for all of my mic'd up sports videos because it just works really well. I use the cropped 4K, and it's awesome. So this is still a great camera. The thing, though, is this is the one. It was kind of like how I went from this camera, the RX100 for simplicity, and then the 6D for a little more complexity. And then this is the one that was like the kind of thing that pushed me into, I think I want 4K. I was starting to notice a difference between 1080 and 4K quality more and more. And so at one point I ended up having the speed booster on this, the Metabone speed booster, so I could get almost full frame 4K and still have autofocus. It kind of limited the autofocus a bit, but then I was, like I could film talking head portions of my video in 4K and play with that. And that was pretty neat. But the Speed Bones workflow, not the best. It's fine, but it's not the best. And that was when in 2021 that I was like, okay, I think I want to get a 4K camera. I think I'm ready. I am ready to 4K over the cash for a 4K camera and make that leap. And that was also after the M1 Max had come out. And once I had my M1 Mac Mini, later in 2021, I would get this computer, the MacBook Pro. Then I was like, oh, I can actually definitely handle a 4K workflow, which I just couldn't do before. And so that, I don't need to go through the whole journey. Originally, I was going to get the Canon R5. That ended up not happening. And then I was really torn on what to get. I was looking at Blackmagic. I was looking at Panasonic. I actually really did not want a Sony camera because I felt that people who like their Sony cameras were just like almost too aggressive about it. And it kind of turned me off. But at the end of the day, when I like literally wrote down the main things I wanted full frame 4K, super reliable autofocus, clean HDMI out, preferably full size HDMI, no overheating issues. Those were kind of my big ones. Good in-body stabilization. Those are really my main ones. At the time, Sony was the only company that made a camera that checked all those boxes. And it just like, there was kind of no way around it. I was going to get the Canon R6 Mark II or R6 at one point. I forget which one, if it was the first one or the Mark II. And literally one day I actually did order the R6 and I was like, okay, I've decided I'm getting the Canon R6. And later that day, I canceled my order for the R6 and ordered the A7S III. And that was my dive into the Sony world that I've talked about in a few other videos. Because this camera, everybody who got it, it almost sounded like a cult because people were so obsessed with this camera when they got it, the A7S III. But it's full frame, it's 4K, it doesn't overheat, it has a flip out screen. It's not the best quality screen in the world. Like the EOS R's flip out screen is so much better. This camera came out 2018. It's better than all of my Sony screens. But it does have a flip out screen. It's super reliable, super high quality. You have 4K 120. You have all this like, it just kind of does everything I need. And also just little quality of life features. Even still on the EOS R, you have these little flaps if you want to get into, and I think Canon still does this. You kind of just have your little flappity flaps to sort of get under things. This one has mini HDMI, but Canon really loves their micro HDMI. Hopefully that will change soon. The thing that I really liked about the Sony is it just has doors that just kind of open up for different parts of your I/O. And we have, not only can you power this camera off USB, but you also have full-size HDMI, just a full-size HDMI port there. We've also got dual memory card slots. So it can just do a lot more. And I have to say, when I got the A7S III and I also ordered the 24 1.4 lens with it, this lens right here, when I got that, getting a call, when I got that, because everyone kind of made this camera seem like the Jesus camera, I was expecting like, a night and day difference. And at first, the thing that the A7S III did for me was make me realize how good the EOS R is. Because I was like, this camera has been around for years longer, is half the price, and is keeping up really, really well. And it's interesting because that's where it probably took me a good 4 or 5 months. I liked this camera, but it wasn't for like 4 or 5 months until I started feeling like, oh, I'm getting it. Like, I'm getting my settings dialed in. I'm getting my colors figured out. I'm like, I'm able to do things with this camera that I couldn't do with this one, to the point where this had been my A camera and this was my B camera. And it was getting harder and harder for me to regularly mix them together, which is why then in late 2021, I was like, I think, as nice as it was to have two EOS Rs, I had sold my other EOS R to fund this camera. As nice as it was to have two of the same camera, I think I want to do that again with Sony. I think I can invest in a second A7S III, which is a very expensive camera. But if you remember supply chain issues in the late 2021 time period, literally you could not buy one of these cameras. And so the only camera I could find available online in the United States anywhere was this, the Sony FX3, from Full Compass, I think is where I bought it from. It's was the only one available on the internet in the United States at one point in time, which is crazy. And the internals are exactly the same, and there hadn't even been firmware updates at the time, so they were very much the same camera, just in a different body. So I was like, okay, I'll get the FX3. I can't show you the FX3 because it's the one we're filming this right now, streaming with. And I'm really glad I got the FX3, because even though there is a clunkiness, if you have two of the exact same camera and you know the camera really well and you can operate it without even, like, you can be in front of the camera and operate the buttons from the back, like the muscle memory is so good. There's a little bit of clunkiness when you're going from one body to another and buttons are in different spots and things, but the FX3 has such a cool form factor. It does have some advantages, specifically the audio handle that comes with it was a huge advantage to me. It doesn't have a viewfinder. It also does have a fan, so even though my A7S III has never once overheated on me, and I live in the desert where today the high temperature is 113 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like, I don't know, 48 degrees Celsius, something like that. It's never overheated outdoors or anything, but the FX3 has a built-in fan, so I never have to worry about that overheating. And I actually really just love the form factor of the FX3, same as the FX30, which I don't have. So I love these two cameras. Then I was sort of stuck in this phase of like, these are great for video, but they're not the best photo cameras. You can take great photos, but if you really want to like crop in on something or print it huge, you can print pretty big 12 megapixel photos. But if you want to have the flexibility, these really aren't the best. So I was using my EOS R as a photo camera, but then if I was out doing photos and I want to take video, then I was kind of limited to my video capabilities. And so then I was like, I feel like I'm always sacrificing something. I'm either only able to do good video or only able to do good photos. I want to do both. And that's where January of 2022, I got the A7 IV, because it is the hybrid. You know, it's not as good at video as the FX3 or the A7S III, but it's way better at photos than those cameras are. And it's really, really good at video. It's like really good. And so those have been my three cameras. I did a whole video recently, like a retrospective on switching to Sony after 3 years. So that's kind of the camera journey. And that's the last time I bought a camera was the A7 IV in January 2022, or at least a new camera. I bought like, you know, projector camcorders and old things and XL1s or whatever, but in terms of like new practical cameras, that's the last time I bought one, because these ones just meet my needs so incredibly well. But I wanted to share that just because it's a cool retrospective as like 7 years on YouTube, but also to kind of like share some of the thoughts and the whys. The biggest lesson I learned through all of that was to really not pay attention to the hype around things. The hype around Sony turned me off of Sony for a long time, to be honest. But what I ended up doing to find the camera that worked best for me was literally writing out by hand, I guess you could type it too, my needs, what I wanted, the things I really needed in a camera. Do I need full frame 4K? You know, is there stuff I don't care about? And then just looking up what cameras meet these needs, of those, what's within my budget, of those, what am I interested in? I did rent cameras a lot. I used lens rentals to, you know, if I wasn't sure, like I rented some Blackmagic cameras and stuff to kind of just see. You can get it for like $100-$150 for a week maybe, and you can actually use the camera in your space, in your workflow, see what it's like. That was hugely helpful, a lot. And then, well, we can talk about log and stuff. Yeah, I guess we'll dive into chat and Q&A because that's kind of the end of my thing. But the thing I've been doing now, so 3 years after I've gotten my Sony cameras, I was just using the default picture profile, which is PP off. And that's actually what I'm using right now, which is a hilarious name for that picture profile. But I have been recently diving into the world of S-Log for like the first time. I've used log before, but it's just kind of a pain in the butt sometimes. But I was kind of testing back and forth. I was talking with Bronson from Audio Hotline, who's one of my good YouTube friends, or a good life friend, but he's a friend who's also on YouTube. And he shoots everything in log, and his footage looks so good, so good. And we have like the same cameras pretty much. And I was noticing, especially stuff here, like if you look at this light behind me, there's no dynamic range here. There's stuff that is like clear and then it's just completely blown out, which is fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. That looks fine. But when I started playing around with log, I was noticing, oh, you could actually get like a gradient where it doesn't look blown out. It looks brighter and then dimmer. And that applies to everything, like shadows on your face, the way your clothing is. Like the dynamic range in log is significantly better than you can get with just using a baked-in picture profile. And so I've been playing with that. You can kind of see it in some of my more recent videos. Some of them I really love the way they look, and other ones, like, I'm not 100% crazy about the colors, but I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to like play with some LUTs, make some presets, figure out stuff on my own, and then it's like you're doing color correction to get everything correct. But does that actually give you the look that you want? And that's where color grading would come in. Like, okay, but I want things to be very saturated. I want them to lean a little more cool than warm, like the personal preference side of things. So getting all that stuff dialed in has been a little bit of a challenge, but it's been really fun. Like I've used log so sparingly in the past that it's been really fun to dive into that. And the cool thing is like, that's something that's been sitting inside my cameras since day one when I bought them 3 years ago. And it's almost like now I have 3 brand new cameras because I started doing that. And even for streams, like right now I'm streaming in 1080 at 30 frames per second, which is not normally how I use these cameras, but trying to get my live streams figured out where stuff looks smooth and nice was tricky. And so lately it's been like less about getting new cameras and more about like actually really diving in and learning as many of the ins and outs of my existing cameras as I could. And that's where we are right now. That has been Camera Tales, Camera Talk with Tom. Okay. We're going to dive in to the chat a little bit, and then we can wrap things up. But if you have a question, whether it's about any of the camera talk we talked about or anything else, if you put a Q:, it will help me find questions. I'm just going to kind of go through the chat first, find some general comments, and then we can dive into some Qs and those Qs. All right. Everyone's talking about you've changed in the first video. Yeah, I just noticed my hair is significantly, where is it? Here we go. Well, that's a great freeze frame. I like to think I've aged more like a fine wine. So young, so much darker hair. Yikes. Let's see. Alex says, go you, man. 7 years powering through. I only discovered this channel a few months, but your reviews and takes and tech have been very helpful for me. I'm happy to hear that. Yeah. And that's one of my favorite things about YouTube is like the videos I made 7 years ago. Like I still get comments sometimes on this drone video. Like it can still be helpful. The info is still useful, and that's really cool about YouTube. Matt, I saw you showing up a while back. You're super busy being an audio professional right now. Peter, are you able to film a 2-person podcast in 1080 and then do a vertical crop for clips on Instagram without looking like it was filmed with a potato, or would I need to film in 4K? That's, I think, a great use of 4K, is you film the whole thing in 4K, and then when you create that, when you downscale the 4K to 1080, it's going to look significantly better. Yeah, that's generally how I would do that. There's everybody here. Welcome to the Eras Tour. Thank you. Oh, Jeremy, the Sony VX2000 sealed the deal. Yes. I never had one, still don't have one, or the VX1000, but yeah, one day, definitely things I want to do. Sean, you're not late for class. You arrived specifically when you're supposed to, or whatever that's supposed to be. Let's see. Want a video on settings on Audacity for USB mic? I'm just not the Audacity Pro. I wish I was. Oh, see you, Mac. I'm glad you were able to stop by for a bit. Have fun being purple. Chumkey says, hi, DeBuck, you're my favorite audio video guy. That's awesome on the whole platform. Happy to attend the first live stream that you're here. Awesome. I'm really glad that you're here. That's awesome. Oh, wait. Well, this is a cue. We'll get to the cues in a second. I want to go into that one. Don has a Canon 80D into MacBook. Quality is always low and fuzzy. I mean, the FX, I'm using the FX3 to stream. It's a dream. It's a stream dream. The FX30 is the same camera with a crop sensor, so definitely a good way to go. What's the best mic I've ever owned? I don't know. There's so many good ones. The SM7B, I mean, it's hard to go wrong with that one. I'm not skipping the cues. I'm just skipping over the cues because I just want to. Oh, Dan, you use the R6. But your gripes are in content creation, the record limit. Oh my God. When I do film with my EOS R and I have to deal with the 30-minute record limit, that was another one of my requirements. No record limit other than memory card space. Overheating sometimes problematic. I know Canon has released so many firmware updates for their cameras in addition to new camera models that they've really gotten to a more reliable mirrorless point. But yeah. Mental Health Toolbox just found me. Hello, I just found your comment. Great topic. Need to move past my M50. I mean, you don't have to. Use Canon Web Pro software. Oh yeah. If you like your M50, I don't know if the M50 has clean HDMI out though is the problem for streaming. I don't think it does. I think the M50 Mark II does, but the original M50 doesn't, and that would be tricky. If you want to move on from that and you're not married to Canon, then I would say the Sony ZV-E10, definitely the way to go. Such a good camera. Global shutter, Sony A9 III global shutter. I love global shutter because, as I talked about in a recent video, my pop fell off there. In a recent video, the GoPro 11 and 12 have full frame mode, which is basically like, oh wait, no, I'm thinking open frame. Am I thinking global shutter? Am I brain breaking? What's the difference between global shutter and open gate? I'm talking about open gate, where you use the whole sensor and you can easily crop vertical and horizontal. Global shutter, I can't even remember what it does right now. I'm not gonna lie. If you want to tell me, please tell me. What is my main editing machine? That's this computer right here. This one, the MacBook, the M1 Max MacBook Pro from 2021. It's like the best computer ever, so I have no need to update anytime soon. And Final Cut Pro, of course. You can go to learnfinalcutpro.com if you want to take my Final Cut Pro editing course. Real Ferris said, thanks for the low boy setup. I'm from Saudi Arabia and got the chance to visit LA for work, and you bought the low. Oh my gosh. I can't believe you were able to take it all the way home or have it shipped, I guess. But I'm glad it's working. That's what I'm using right now. I did a video recently about my camera rig setup that's all kind of based around this rolling low boy stand, and it's awesome, and it works really well. There we go. Let's see here. I love the term glow up being used here. Oh, Doc's in Atlanta. What's up? Oh, MKH50, Matt. There you go. That's definitely the most impressive. Yeah. And Paul's here. What's up, Paul? Which is better, DBX 286 or Rodecaster Pro 2? Very different. Both great preamps. So DBX would be a little cheaper if you just need a great interface preamp thing. The Rodecaster is going to give you all the onboard mixing, more effects, processing, EQ, onboard recording, all that. So if you need that, go the Rodecaster. If you need more inputs, go the Rodecaster. Otherwise, then you can do the DBX. What's up, Wiley? I've been using the SM48 when my podcast friend comes to town. What would be the best upgrade from that mic? I mean, if you want to keep it relatively similar and in budget-friendly territory, the SM58 is a great one because it sounds awesome and it's not too expensive. Yeah. I'm sorry that I knocked the pop filter and it wasn't on straight. Oh, here we go. Thank you. Thank you. We're talking about global shutter. Instead of scanning top to bottom, it captures the whole frame, which means it reduces things like rolling shutter and jello effects and wobbly and all that kind of stuff. That is a dream because let me tell you, especially on the EOS R, there's not huge rolling shutter issues with the 12 megapixel sensors of the A7S III and the FX3. The EOS R, when you crop into the full frame 4K, or I guess when you crop into 4K on the full frame sensor, it's insane. Everything just looks like wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube men from car dealerships because it's all jello-y and cuckoo bananas. That's right. Open gate, global shutter. I miss all that. I mix all those things up. All right, so now I'm going to jump into the Q colons, and we're going to dive into questions, and then we can wrap things up. So if you got a question, just put a Q colon, and I can find it. We already did talk some of them, so there we go. Anthony, what's up, Anthony? Again, you're using the prompter, but you have to have it the lowest brightness because it's noticeable at a high. Yeah, so I have my prompter right here, actually, because I was using it earlier. If you're using the Elgato prompter and you have it, this display is so bright that you can get almost like this haze sometimes. You know, your camera's back here looking through this one-way glass, or I guess not one-way glass, just looking through this glass, and you can kind of get this haze. So I usually keep my brightness at about 70 or 75%. I would rather have the screen be too bright and turned down than too dim and not be able to go brighter. But when I'm using like the script and I'm putting text, black background with white text, it's fine. It can be super bright and it doesn't matter. If I'm using it as a second display and I have like a web window or like a browser window up there, that's when I can notice the glare because if there's bright elements. So I try to make sure that everything I have on here is pretty much in dark mode, and that helps a lot because if you're not in dark mode, then you need to turn the brightness down even more sometimes. And that has been really helpful. I can still usually get away, even if I'm using like browser window or Zoom or something, I can usually get away with like 50% brightness if everything's in dark mode. But yeah, it's definitely something to be aware of. It's not like a defect. It's just something that happens when you use prompters. Let's see. Has inflation made you consider going back to teaching? No, working harder for less money, definitely not. Sorry, I was being sarcastic there. Studio 1209, using the Logitech Brio 500, but bought the Nikon Z5. It's not full frame, but I have the Z6, only use it for my photo business. Do you think the Z5, I mean, I haven't used the Z5. I've only used the Z9, which I know is like their baller camera. If you can get the Z5 working as a webcam, which you should be able to with HDMI output, possibly even USB, yes, that thing would be awesome. Nikon really kicking a lot of butts, kicking all the butts. Are you doing a review on that MV7 Plus? Sure am. That's why I was here, because I filmed that the other day. I'm editing it right now. Still need to do some B-roll and stuff. I have been so impressed with this microphone, though. I do still stand by it. If you weren't here at the beginning, if you have the original MV7, unless you need the specific USB features that this one offers, don't upgrade. There's just no point. If you're not going to use this a lot through USB, then it's probably not worth it. You could get, if you like this sound quality and you like the design and you just want to use it as an XLR microphone, get the MV7X because it's like $100 cheaper and it's the same microphone, just XLR only. But if you're going to take advantage of the USB features, at least sometimes, like I'm primarily an XLR guy, but it's nice to have good USB mics like this that I can use, especially with like awesome processing and denoise and stuff, then this is a good one. So if you have the original MV7, though, I don't think it's an upgrade. If you don't have the original, this is definitely the way to go because this MSRP is $249. This is $279. It's totally worth $30 more. I have seen the original on sale more often lately, though, since this came out. So if you end up getting this for like $200, then it might be worth going with the original. Although freaking micro HDMI versus USB-C, micro USB versus USB-C, quality of life improvements right there. For sure. White or gray gear? Saw Rode is pushing beautiful white devices. Yeah, Rode has been releasing everything in white, re-releasing stuff in white, and now Mackie, owned by the same parent company, starting to release some stuff in white. I like the white gear. I mean, I bought this in white. It's a cool thing. Looking over here, I have my white Elgato arm. I don't think you can see it on camera, but I have my blue Sono in white. I'm someone who likes high-key situations where things are very bright and everything's bright, maybe a little overexposed and colorful. And white stuff on screen is very hard. You talk about a reason to use log footage is to get things exposed when I'm using bright white things on screen. I like it. It's cool. It's not, I wouldn't throw out all my existing stuff to get the white versions, but it's cool to have choices when you're buying new stuff. I think it looks really, really neat. Marine X does EDC videos and feel gluttonous sometimes, so I sell gear. Yeah, I'm really big on like I want gear's supposed to be used, right? It's like Toy Story, right? Like the toys want to be played with. It's like their job. I feel like gear is sort of the same thing. So I like to make sure that gear is used a lot. There's stuff like I will use this camcorder for fun sometimes or in videos, but it doesn't get used a lot. But it also like I'm not going to make any money selling this. So keeping it for the like sentimental nostalgia value is worth more than selling it for me. Kind of same goes even like I would never want to sell my RX 100 because it's like the camera that started my channel, so it means a lot to me. Probably don't really have a use for this camera at all anymore, but also like no one's going to buy it either. So, there's that. When gear is still useful, desirable, if I'm not using it, I usually try to find ways to either sell it or donate it. I don't sell a lot of gear. Usually I will, especially if it's something like if a company sent something and I don't need it anymore, then I just give it away or donate it. I have a whole pile of stuff here. The tricky part, like I would love to give more stuff away, especially through like, giving away stuff on the channel is hard because then the channel just becomes like a spam contest channel. So I've like kind of learned, I've done a few giveaways in the past and they're sort of nightmares. And you never are sure if the person who gets the thing is going to use it or actually appreciates it. Giving away stuff though is tricky because of shipping, where it's very hard. It like almost limits me to the United States only because international shipping can be super expensive and time consuming. And sometimes I've shipped stuff internationally and people have to then pay a bunch of money to get it imported, or like customs can't contact. It just gets weird. So usually I kind of have stuff locally. It's like I try to find, I don't know, schools or friends of friends, people who know people. And I'm like, hey, do you need a microphone? Do you need this? Take it, please. But I try to make sure if I'm not using gear, it gets used. My microphones, there's a lot that I have that I don't use regularly. Like, I don't know, what's a good example? Here we go. Yeah. I don't know that I would actually want to give this to anybody for their own safety, but like I'm not going to use the newer NW800, but it's a microphone that having it around for comparison and reviews is very helpful. That's originally even why I got my SM7B, was not because I wanted an SM7B, but because when I do mic reviews, it's like the number one question. How does that mic sound compared to the SM7B? So I needed to have one so that I could always have it to compare to. And then that made me fall in love with it. So that's kind of funny. But yeah, I like gear being used. If I'm not using it, I like to find ways to give it to people who can use it. Because one thing, when I was teaching and my program had like all of this equipment, I really saw the impact it could have when somebody would somebody want to do something, you could give them access to like a really good piece of gear that enabled them to do something they couldn't do before. I saw it like literally change people's lives, change the whole outlook on whole trajectory, everything. And so if I have a piece of gear that I'm not using that has the potential to do that for somebody else, I want that person to have that piece of gear. Yeah. Zapata Brand Podcast says, can you use two Canon M50s with the capture cards for stream? If so, how? Yes, you can. You could use something like, I'm looking over here because my ATEM Mini is over there. So the ATEM Mini, you can have 4 HDMI inputs and switch between them. So almost like right now I have hotkeys set up on my computer to switch between cameras and things. The ATEM will just do that between HDMI inputs. The ATEM Mini ISO and Extreme ISO models will also have the ability to record each input separately. It won't show up on your computer separately, but you can record them all and then edit them together later if you need to. There are things like, I think Blackmagic makes something called the Deck Link. And there's also the Cam Link Pro, where it's multiple HDMI inputs and each individual input will show up as its own source in your computer. So like right now, my ATEM has 8 inputs, but if I connect the ATEM to the computer's gonna see one input. It's just the ATEM, and whatever it's selected, that's what the computer sees. If you use the Cam Link Pro or the Deck Link, you can select each of those 4 things and build your scenes and stuff together that way. It depends on your workflow, what you need. Point being, yes, it's possible to use 2 of the same cameras. What was the camera that changed the trajectory of my career? Oh my God. I would honestly say, because there's a thing that ignited it personally, which I kind of talked about, like, the Sony Handycam made me interested in cameras. So you could say that one. I would actually say the Canon 5D Mark II, because my first year teaching, I started as an English teacher, and then I also taught yearbook, which I did because I was like, hey, it's like a little bit of graphic design and there's some cameras and stuff. Um, I was an English teacher for 2 years, and then my school had a digital media program, and the person who was teaching it just sort of unexpectedly left like a month into a school year, and they were kind of scrambling to find someone. They knew I was an audio video nerd and asked if I wanted to take over that position, and I did. And I had like a couple days where I was shadowing with the previous teacher, and he kind of had an old school journalism background. This was in 2012, and they were still filming on tapes. Like they're filming everything was being filmed with like camcorders and really old school strategies. And I was kind of looking through the very messy equipment room, and there were 2 Canon 5D Mark IIs, which I had like obsessed with on YouTube. Like I bought my T2i because there was no way I thought I could ever afford a Canon 5D Mark II, which was full frame DSLR that could also shoot video. So full frame video, like that's crazy. And they had 2 of those, and I remember him showing me like these I remember specifically he was like, "This is our like pride and joy." And it was some like Sony camcorder that took tapes. He's like, "This is the main camera that our program uses." And I was like, "Huh." And then there were these 2 5D Mark IIs over there, and I was like, "Do you ever film video with those?" And he was like, "I guess you could." At the time, keep in mind this is 2012. That camera's like literally changing the world in terms of what's possible with video production. And I'm like, yeah, you could. Like it would change everything. And so when he left then, and I took over the program, I was like, well, we are only shooting videos we're not using this stuff anymore. We're only shooting video with this. And we are ordering so many more DSLRs that can shoot video. So I got more 5Ds, but then a lot of like 60Ds. At the time, that was kind of the big one, and a bunch of Rebels too. So it was like students coming into the program could work with Rebels, which all had manual focus. Then you could kind of level up to like the 60D, where you had more capabilities, and it didn't have video autofocus. No. And then you could go up to the 5D. None of those had autofocus at the time. When I started my second media program, it was similar, but it was 70Ds with autofocus. And then we started switching like EOS Rs, and I had some A7 3s and stuff as well. But anyway, the thing with the 5D Mark II is I would tell my students, like, it was sort of this weird, like, the program was sort of like a journalistic program, kind of like I said, but it was like, I remember I had students I found out they were checking out the cameras, like to take photos for their news stories. And they would check out the camera for the weekend, take whatever crappy photos they need to take, and then they would go make videos because the camera could shoot amazing videos. And I was like, oh, okay. You guys are more interested in video than just the weird photos. And I have this very specific memory where these students came up to me one day and they were like, Mr. Buck, like, I know you're new to the program, but we're having trouble with this news story we were assigned, and we don't know where to begin. And I was like, oh, well, what's your news story? And they're like, we're supposed to like look into some road construction delays in downtown and like why these potholes haven't been filled. I was like, okay, do you want to do that story? And they were like, no, we don't. And I was like, do you think anyone really wants to read that story? And they were like, no, we don't. And I was like, how about we don't do that then? And that was like kind of a turning point where it was like, instead of us pretending to do like journalism that nobody needs, and then checking out equipment to do what we actually want to do with it, why don't we just do the stuff you actually want to do for real? And so it rewrote the whole course and shifted it into digital media production, which was, audio video production, short filmmaking and all that kind of stuff. So and those cameras, I mean, like I had students using the 5D who got stuff like shown at the White House, stuff shown in movie theaters, they got scholarships, they got admitted into colleges using those things. Like those cameras really, not only did they ignite like the excitement in the students, but the quality that the students were able to get from those cameras made the program, like especially again 2012, you have students shooting stuff that looks like this, like that's insane. maybe that's a less of like a super impressive thing now because your phone has cinematic mode, but like it was a big deal. Change everything, really helped my program to build a reputation for quality and then continue to go for like 9 more years. So I would say the Canon 5D Mark II. Have you ever been in radio? Patrick asks. I have been on radio, but I've never been like a radio person. Like I've never had like a radio show other than my own podcast. You can go to hi, my name is Tom.com/podcasts and check those out. Home Sweet Myrtle purchased an R8 and love it. Do you use lens filters when you film YouTube videos? Think going back to a mist filter. I don't. Sometimes I'll use an ND when I'm doing log because I want to put the camera at its base ISO of 800 and then it's way too bright, so put an ND on there. I do have the Polar Pro, what is it called? It's like it's a filter that you can put on and it basically gives you like anamorphic lens flares. I have the gold one that does that, but I've never used like a mist filter. And part of that is because coming from the 8mm camcorder world and then getting into crystal clear 4K, I have a hard time doing anything that like softens the image. So my stuff is probably too sharp or digitally sometimes, but you know, it is what it is. Let's see here. Do you still like your manual crank stand? Yes, I do. I can hang my headphones off the crank. I like it because the thing that's cool with this desk is I don't need to plug it in. So I can move it in and out of the room, all around the room, and there's no cable to keep track of. If I had like it stuck in one spot, it'd probably be cool to have the automatic one where then I can just... It was making some creaky noises a while ago, but I put some lubricant in there and like some spray lubricant, and now it because that was kind of the problem, was it was getting to a point where every time I leaned on it, it was like, and that was distracting in videos. Seem to have mostly resolved that problem now. Cleverson says, would you recommend a Rodecaster alternative or Rodecaster Pro itself for a musician? 100%. Boom, this right here, the Boss Gigcaster 8. I was going to stream with this today, but I figured I would use the MV7 instead. So maybe next time I stream, I'll use this. It's basically a Rodecaster that has built-in amp modeling, effects chains, all that kind of stuff. It's a Rodecaster for musicians, basically. So yes, the Boss Gigcaster. The interface is not the best on it. It's completely fine. And if you went back in time like 10 years, it would be amazing. But if you've used something like a Rodecaster or a DLZ, which have phenomenal user interfaces and the way that you interact with the device, like through dials and everything, they're really, really good. This one, because it's also so complex, like putting together effects and adjusting them, and you have to do everything through like this tiny, funky touch screen. The interface isn't great. Its ability to do music-related stuff is just nothing else even comes close. So if you're a musician, Gigcaster is the way to go. This is the Gigcaster 8, but they also have, I think it's the 4, which is a little smaller and cheaper. We'll put that on the floor. Speaking of the 4. Oh, thanks, Paul. You're being Mr. Moderator over here. The Q colon, the reason for that is in Ecamm, I can search Q colon, and then it just brings up all the questions. And so it just makes it easier for me to find them. I still might miss some, but at least helps. Alex has been stuck between an A7 III and the FX30 and the A6700. Need it mainly for video, but would like a decent picture too. Okay, those are all great cameras, so you can't go wrong. The A7 III, as great as it is a bit outdated, especially if you're looking at the FX30 or the 6700. 6700 is more, I guess it's more compact. I would lean towards the FX30, but that's because I've been using my FX3 for a number of years now, and I absolutely love it. It's rock solid, reliable. That fan, I'm a huge fan of the fan. Whether or not you think you're going to need overheating or anything, it just, whatever situation you find yourself in, you know your camera will never overheat. That's awesome. Does the FX30 has dual memory cards, doesn't it? Same as the FX3? I think it has dual memory cards. That makes a big difference. I know by default it does not come with the audio handle, but if you're able to get it with the audio handle, that's also a total game changer. So I would say FX30 out of that bunch too. Patrick, when did you know you had an obsession with AV equipment? Definitely 4 years old. This camera here, because what that also manifested in was then like learning to make my own stop motion stuff and all that. To the point where when I was like in middle school and eBay first launched, I would go on eBay and look up camera listings because at the time that was the only place you could see real life photos of cameras. Like you could go to like the Sony website or the Canon website and you could see like, they'd have a couple product images of a camera, which I would print out the XL1's image from the Canon website and pin it on my bulletin board. But if you go to eBay, you could see like what a camera looked like in an actual environment. And, like there's no YouTube. There was not a thing where someone could hold something up or cut to multiple angles or even do slick B-roll or whatever and show you what something looked like. And I feel like that's something you only do if you're obsessed with this stuff. And the thing I love too is like, I think I got this from my dad because he was a tinkerer who liked to take things apart, sometimes not put them back together, and like just make things do other things. Especially in the pre-digital era, there was so much of like, okay, I could run this camera into this VCR and I could connect this CD player into this mixer into that, and I could run this cable instead of that cable. There's a lot of like, what if I did this and then could I do this? And like, does this adapter let me do this? Like, you could go to Radio Shack and just like, for $8 buy stuff that would let you do things you could never do before. And like, I think that like problem solving, exploring, tinkering really clicked with me a lot. What are your thoughts on the Electro Voice RE27, the $500 mic? Overpriced, amazing. I haven't used the RE27. I've only used the oh my god, RE20, right? No. Oh my god, I gave mine away and now I can't remember. It's like it left my brain. The one that's like the most popular one. I think it's the RE20, right? My brain's not working great today. I haven't used the other one. I love the sound quality of those mics. I don't love them on my voice, but I love them on other people's voice. I don't like the handling noise, which is why I'm more of an SM7B guy, because you can just grab and move the microphone. Even the MV7, like this is not bad when it comes to handling noise at all. I think they're amazing mics for the right person. I don't think they're overpriced. How can Elgato capture cards do 4K or cheaper than an ATEM that does 1080? So like the Cam Link right now that I'm using here, it's like $100, $120, and it's 4K, but this is it. Whereas the ATEM can take 4 sources, and then it can also add in audio, 2 channels of audio, and then it can also do transitions, then it can also do chroma keying, then it can also do macros. Like it can do a lot more. And the basic ATEM, the ATEM Mini Pro, is like $300, so it's not even really that much more. But doing all of that at 4K requires, especially keeping in mind the ATEMs are like 4 years old at this point, the processing power required to do that is huge, and so that's why they're limited to 1080 instead of 4K. It's definitely why I am confused they have not updated them with 4K currently, but yeah. Also, Elgato just makes really good stuff. Like more and more, like every time I get something, I just got over here, you can't see it, but I just got the Elgato LED strip light that they came out with, which is just, RGB strip, like the one you can stick to stuff. It's like 6 feet long. Like I've had so many cheap versions of those lights over the years, and like they just do things really well. It's that perfect thing of functionality, quality, and price. Like it's the perfect combination. Normally it's choose 2. You can get all 3 with Elgato, and I love that. Let's see here. Thank you, Paul, again. Would you do lives in a vertical format? I was planning to stream to Instagram today and just couldn't get it going after I started. I thought I could start the stream on YouTube and then add in Instagram. No, I could not do that. For the manual crank desk, could you grab a light-duty drill and a 10mm hex bit and zip that desk up and down? Oh, that's true, huh? Oh, yeah, I could just use the drill to put it up and down. That's true. That'd be fun, actually. Maybe unnecessary, but definitely fun. Alrighty. I think that got me caught up on the questions with the Q's, and now it's time for the L, as in lunch. RE20, thank you. And Alex, I hope you enjoy your FX30. Old streamer from 2016, retired like 4 years ago. Which platforms and meta should I use to restart streaming again? I mean, YouTube. YouTube has added a lot, especially if you haven't streamed recently. YouTube has added so many stream things to the platform. Obviously, there's still Twitch. You can stream to Instagram. You stream to Facebook. I guess that's what I think of when I think of Facebook. You could stream to Facebook. But YouTube is where I would put most of my eggs personally, because that is where I put most of my eggs. Yeah, I miss the Radio Shack, Circuit City, Blockbuster. Yeah. Oh my God. Friday nights, Blockbuster. In our case, it was Superstar Video. We didn't have a Blockbuster in my town. And then when I was out of high school, I worked at a local video chain called Video Depot. We were across the street from a Blockbuster. But yeah, just like, I don't waiting for like, if your movie wasn't there or your game wasn't there and you had to like, you're just kind of waiting by the drop-in thing to see if someone was gonna like drop it in the bucket. And then if it did come in, you would like have to tell the worker, like, I think like Face Off came back. Can I get that copy of Face Off, please? Is there latency with the cam link? Very, very little. I mean, virtually none for me right now. I know you might not be able to tell, but I can tell as I'm snapping my finger and seeing the snap, it is in real time. Thank you for videos and anyone who has tech questions. I appreciate that. Hope that's super helpful. Tomorrow's video is going to be, I still like Final Cut Pro for video editing, but I understand that the landscape has changed. So tomorrow's video kind of breaks down where Final Cut Pro is and how I feel about the idea of switching from Final Cut in 2024. It's not a clickbaity thing. Like, I love Final Cut, but I recognize it's not the right choice for everybody, and I kind of wanted to discuss that. Then we're going to do the MV7 review. Then we have some Final Cut tutorials, and then some fun stuff with like projector camcorders, all kinds of cool things. Alrighty, last couple questions. What do you think of a Canon Rebel SL3 as an upgrade from an old webcam? Oh, you figure out how to have lenses? Heck yeah, for sure. Pretty much anytime you can move up from a webcam, you're going to notice a huge jump in image quality. And a Canon Rebel, the sensor on that thing is so much bigger than a webcam sensor, and you're going to put a nicer lens in front of it. It's going to look great. I can't remember if the SL3 has autofocus when it's like running HDMI, clean HDMI out with video autofocus. But if you can work with manual focus otherwise, then there you go. And use Wondershare for more. Yeah, there's so much good editing stuff out there. I'm mainly focusing in my video on Final Cut Premiere and Resolve, because those are kind of like the, it's not Avid, which is what like movie and TV uses. It's not like CapCut. What was the other one? Man, I can't even, my brain is not working. There was one that was really good on the iPad. I can't remember what it was. LumaFusion. It's not LumaFusion. Kind of like in that middle zone there, which is getting a lot more blurry, but should be kind of a fun video. I mean, it's done and I like it and I think it's fun. I hope you think it's fun. And I also hope it's helpful because people have a lot of questions about that stuff. And if you like Final Cut Pro, there may or may not be a hidden promo code for my course in that video somewhere. So anyway, I think that kind of wraps us up. Whenever the next stream is, my current plan would be to use the Boss Gigcaster so I can show you what that sounds like and maybe plug in some instruments and hurt your ears with some terrible playing as well. So that's what we'll do next time. Maybe next week. I've been doing sort of Tuesday, Wednesdays-ish sometimes. So this sounds like a cliche, but if you hit the bell for notifications, then you won't miss the live stream, because I don't even know when the next one's going to be. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate all the kindness, all the support, all the questions, super chat, everything. I hope 7 years, starting clicking the create channel button 7 years ago and not thinking that another human on planet Earth would ever want to watch anything that's on there, to where things are now is kind of unreal. And I really appreciate that. So I hope you have a safe, happy, healthy, fun rest of your day. And if I can find the right scene, I'll see you next time.